Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, and today I am so beyond excited to share with you that I've bought the watch that I have loved and lusted after for 25 years. And no, that's not an exaggeration. I've wanted a Chanel J12 since I was a kid. And even though it's far from the most prestigious watch in my collection, being able to say that I own this piece now is something truly special for me. And today I want to share the history and the story of the 2-decade love affair between me and the Chanel J12. To understand how much this watch means to me, we have to go back to 1999, when my lifelong love affair with watches was sparked by the giant billboards advertising the brand new Chanel J12. If you were around back then and remember when the J12 launched, it was a landmark moment in the watch industry for a number of reasons, but most importantly because in the watch industry, which is a pretty homogenous place, all things considered, the J12 and its full ceramic case, unisex design and appeal, and true sporting ability was truly revolutionary. And we will get back to that in just a minute, but first I have to give you some context about my upbringing and the life that I lived at the time that the J12 came out. I come from a solidly middle-class household. My parents drove Honda Civics and wore Casios, and actually that's still true today. We were perfectly comfortable, but there was no room in our household for excess. So throughout the early years of the new millennium, for a 10-year-old Josh to dream about owning anything with a designer label seemed so far removed from the reality that he lived at the time that the closest he figured he'd ever get to a J12 was walking past the glossy billboards. I don't even think I was tall enough to see into the big display windows of the Chanel boutique. And yet, whenever my mom would take me to the mall, I would make a stop right there so I could stare up at the 2-story tall billboard that flanked the side of the flagship Chanel boutique. Later on in my high school years, old enough to go to the mall by myself or with friends after school, while all my peers wanted to go to Hot Topic and Spencer's, I remember taking up all my courage in my hands and walking into the Chanel boutique to go and actually see it in the flesh. Or ceramic, rather. And looking back, I realize now that I must have looked more than a little bit ridiculous and irritated more than a few sales associates walking into the Chanel boutique as a 16-year-old. And I also realize now how kind those lovely people were to even entertain this 16-year-old kid and show me the J12 in person. But they did, and from the minute I held it in my hands, I was hooked. Now, curiously, I don't actually remember being terribly aware of the bigger names and the more important names like Rolex at the time. And in fact, I don't actually have memories of wanting a Rolex until I was in college. And anyway, it didn't matter. My heart belonged to the J12. Now, like any first love, as I got older and into my late teens and early 20s, the J12 and I really did drift apart. Though while I was working retail at the big department stores to put myself through college, I did buy a watch because it was J12-esque, that being my Tag Heuer Formula 1, but that was about where the J12 dream ended. And once I was more established in my career, making the money to afford luxury watches on a somewhat regular basis, I dove headfirst into the serious luxury watch brands, steadily filling my collection with pieces from Omega, Tudor, and Grand Seiko. And finally, of course, for my 30th birthday, I actually did get the Rolex, which I really thought was going to be the end of my watch collecting journey. But then one day earlier this year, as I took stock of all the amazing watches that I'm so fortunate and so grateful to own, I realized that the watch that had started it all, the watch that 10-year-old Josh would have given anything and everything to have, wasn't among them. So 25 years later, off I went in search of a J12. And the first watch would in fact be the last watch. Now, because it had been over 20 years and everything in life is more expensive in 2025 than it was in 1999, the J12 no longer costs the $2,000 or whatever it was to start out. Today, a basic J12 carries a retail price of $8,350. And this Black Phantom, which is what I really wanted, retails for $8,950. And listen, I love the J12. I have for 25 years. But there's no way that I was about to pay almost the same price I paid for my Submariner for a J12. But then, as if it was fate, one Sunday morning, I don't even know what made me think to do so, I randomly popped on to one of the luxury resale sites I have sold to and bought from many times in the past. But it was meant to be, because the first search result was this J12 Phantom in literally brand new condition with some of the protective stickers still intact, only 2 years old, and for less than half of the current retail price. And for that, I was like, shut up and take my money. And before I knew it, this J12 was in my hands, and for the first month that I owned it, I basically didn't take it off. And even today, though I am comfortably past the honeymoon phase with this watch, I reach for it constantly because this J12 is probably one of the most versatile watches in my entire collection. And on top of that, because of the way the J12 has evolved into the watch that it is today, this is truly a standout piece, even though it does come from a French fashion brand and not a legacy Swiss brand. Of course, the biggest headline of the second generation J12 is the movement. Before relaunching the J12 in 2019, Chanel actually teamed up with Tudor and Norqain to found the movement maker Canisi and took an ownership stake to claim that the caliber 12.1 is an in-house caliber. In case you didn't know, and many self-proclaimed Swiss watch aficionados actually don't know, the caliber 12.1 is basically the same movement as what Tudor calls the MT5402, which is used in the Black Bay 58 among many other new Tudor watches. And rather comically, although Tudor is the legacy Swiss brand and Chanel is the fashion brand, Chanel's 12.1 version of this movement is regarded by many to be the best finished, and unlike in the Black Bay 58, you can actually see it through the beautiful exhibition case back. Also, like the Black Bay 58, the J12 is a true diver with 200 meters of water resistance. And maybe the retail price is justified because you are getting so much more with this J12 than the Black Bay 58. You get the high-tech ceramic case and bracelet, you get the sapphire exhibition case back, and of course, you're getting a true icon here. The Black Bay 58 is recognizable, but I don't consider it iconic just because it itself is based off of the general design of the Rolex Submariner. And that is what I consider the icon. And I have to tell you, because of how smooth the ceramic is and the fact that it's lighter weight than stainless steel, this is by far the most comfortable watch to wear that I own. Ceramic is also hypoallergenic, so if you suffer from allergies to metallurgy, it's worth looking into. And finally, and perhaps most amusingly, I work in an industry and an office where Rolex are a dime a dozen. So wearing a sub to work for me is like a nurse wearing scrubs. And even though I don't buy or wear watches for attention or validation, whenever I wear this J12 around, without fail, I get both men and women remarking and asking about what it is. Really, my only complaint aside from the astronomical retail price is the fact that you will see every little smudge and smear of dirt and grime and oil on this watch because it's entirely finished in a high gloss polish. Luckily, ceramic is also nearly scratch-proof, and so any grime that it collects generally wipes up without issue, and so that means even though I do wear this watch on a regular basis, it's never going to show the kind of wear that a lot of my other stainless steel watches do. So all I can say is that 10-year-old Josh had incredibly good taste, and I think he would be over the moon that we finally bought our dream watch. And even though it took us 25 years to get here, let me tell you, the wait was worth it. And with my purchase of this J12 and now having sold all the watches that I just didn't want and didn't wear in my watch sale video, I have also officially completed my watch collection and I'm done buying watches. And look out for a video on my complete and permanent watch collection, hopefully coming soon here on the channel. With that, thanks for watching, and until then, have a great one and take care.